Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest transfer show. I'm Kirk. I've got John with me, and we're going to talk about a couple of done deals. There's a few rumours that are going around, and we'll take a look at potential outgoings. John, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you. Thanks for having me on again. Can we chat more about actual incomings this time, and a couple of rumours as well, obviously.
But before that, we need you to subscribe to Cherries Red Army as we head into the Premier League. So give that subscribe button a hit. Also, give this video a like. It really, really does help on YouTube. It helps this video grow so more people see it. Of course, we want to get your thoughts at the end of this video in the comments, so make sure you get involved. Let's get straight into it, John. The first done deal, the first signing for AFC Bournemouth this season sort of came out of nowhere, but then grew legs very, very quickly. Ryan Fredericks. We did a video on this, a quick reaction when it was announced. So check that out on the channel. There might be a card at the top of the screen. But Scott Parker knows Ryan Fredericks from his time at Fulham. He's had 4 years at West Ham. As the years went on, his sort of statistics fell off a little bit. But when you talk to people who know Ryan Fredericks, have seen Ryan Fredericks, a quick, attacking, forward-thinking right back, maybe not great defensively, I'm hearing, John, but someone on a free transfer, and it was definitely a position that Scott Parker was looking at.
Yeah, ironically, I think right back was the actual position amongst the defence that we least needed reinforcement, and yet it's the first one that arrived. But you need depth when going into the Premier League. You need a level of strength and depth, and Fredericks not only has a level of experience in the Premier League with 4 years at West Ham, and I think a season in the Prem with Fulham, quite possibly as well.
Promotion, I think.
Yeah, the promotion season certainly with Fulham. He also obviously is very familiar with Scott Parker, so there's that, bringing someone in that that at least is familiar with the manager and sort of what you'd imagine he would want. And it's kind of funny actually how Bournemouth, even with a new manager, still tries to keep as many sort of tries to keep as much sort of familiarity with management and players and upper staff as well, even if it's in a slightly different format this time. But I mean, it's a sensible signing. It's not blowing anyone away. It's a good start, and the more interesting thing I think is sort of like, what does that look at in terms of outgoings? Because we all kind of suspected that Stacey was low down on the pecking order. Ethan Laird was picked ahead of him towards the second half of the season, and Adam Smith, as much as Kirk, you and I don't really like seeing him play on the left-hand side, by having another option at right back, it means that when worst comes to the worst, we can at least put Adam Smith on the left and have a capable right back in that position. So yeah, it's a good start.
Writing potentially on the wall for Jack Stacey. Going back to that point, John, when you look at Twitter and the fans' reaction to this signing of Ryan Fredericks, I said I don't expect him to start on the opening day. I expect Smith to get that position initially. We know that Scott Parker likes Adam Smith. But if Adam Smith does struggle early on in the Premier League, he knows he can bring Fredericks in. And I did say, John, that I'm likely to see Adam Smith at some point play left back, because tell me a season when he hasn't, and Ryan Fredericks will slot in at right back. Do you see Ryan Fredericks starting, though, on the opening day of the season if he's fit?
At the moment, I don't. I would certainly imagine more so that it'll be Adam Smith playing. We know Parker very much rates him and prefers him. And the thing about Smith, now that he's a bit older, he's got a bit more nous, even if he does make the odd mistake at the back as well. The fact that we've got Jordan Zamora bombing on the left side means that the defensively minded Adam Smith on the right, it sort of offsets that. And obviously against Nottingham Forest, we saw him operate essentially as a right centre-back. So yeah, I think he prefers Adam Smith, but if he wants two good attacking options to bomb on, which you will need at times, then I'd imagine Ryan Fredericks is going to be the better attacking option. And the frustration, I think, particularly with Adam Smith at right back, is because he is so defensive under Parker, he's never really formed a great partnership down that right-hand side. As the season went on, he got more and more defensive, and Ryan Christie was sort of left to be on his own without much support, which, going forward against better teams, we're going to need a better link-up play on that right-hand side between Christie and whether it be Lerma or Rothwell, and then whoever's at right back. So I do want to see more attacking from whoever is on that right side, but yeah, I certainly expect Smith to start.
Ryan Fredericks, a done deal, first signing for AFC Bournemouth in the Premier League, and a second signing now for AFC Bournemouth as well. Less likely or less surprising, shall we say, John, was Joe Rothwell. Tried to get this one over the line back in January, didn't get it over the line. Rothwell made his decision that he was not going to sign a new contract at Blackburn, and I'm sure he was in demand across many clubs, but that connection that he maybe had with Scott Parker, maybe speaking to him previously, was already sealed, and he signed for Bournemouth on a good deal. And a player that can come in, counter-attacking midfielder who can take the ball on. And if Billing doesn't turn up in the Premier League and struggles, although we hope he does very well, it's a player that can fit in or replace Billing. I don't, though, see Billing and Rothwell playing together much.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Certainly in terms of Rothwell coming in, we tried to get him in January. I think we were quoted 3.5 million, 3 million for a player with 6 months left on his contract. Blackburn were desperate to keep him for a promotion push, which obviously didn't happen. But yeah, it's funny looking at sort of, you can only take a certain amount of stats from a ratings being given on, say, who scored or sofa score, but certainly on who scored, you see he's played sort of as a more defensive midfielder, a central midfielder, and as more of an attacking midfielder. And the further up the pitch he is, the better rating they've given him, essentially. So yeah, certainly his dribbling ability and his ability to take on a man, I think, is something that was identified more so when when he was looked at in January, and that's a kind of player that is very useful to have from central midfield. And I think Lewis Cook is capable of that, but you want him to sit a bit deeper and dictate play more. So yeah, I think it's a sensible signing. I think it's a good one. I think I've seen a few mentions on Twitter of sort of like, oh, we brought in 2 free signings from one's discarded from a Prem team and the other one's had one decent season at Championship level. It's like, yeah, but it's sensible. It's bringing in cover. It's bringing in depth. It's just you've got to have enough men to deal with a very tough season. And Rothwell fits at least, it fits the bill of the kind of player that we want as cover and competition for Philip Billing, which we don't really have at the moment in that position. Well, I mean, we kind of do in Mark Condes, but he's not been given the opportunities that I think he probably deserves. So, it's another man in the door. It's good cover, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does because he put in his best season last year, 7 goals and 3 assists, I believe it was. So we'll see what he can do in this team.
It was his best return from a statistical point of view last season for Blackburn. I mean, interestingly, John, the big question is, can he step up to that Premier League level? And that's what we're going to have to find out, I suppose. But when you look at the deal, it is a free transfer. And it's beyond that as well, John. You can see that the aim here from the club is to sign some of these players. I think we might go for a marquee signing at some point. We may go for a big one. But we've got to prepare for potentially being back in the Championship next season as well. It's as much as we could stay up, as much as we could go down. And if we do end up going down, and you've got the likes of Ryan Fredericks and Joe Rothwell, these are going to be good players in the Championship because we know we've got other players with contracts running down, and we don't know if these new contracts are going to get signed either. So we've got to prepare for maybe two seasons, not just one.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and it's a really good point. Those stats is actually for someone else. I'm getting ahead of myself in terms of what Joe Rothwell is capable of.
Was it 10 assists, 3 goals?
I think it was 3 goals and 3 goals. I think it was 10 assists. Yeah. We'll get on to the player that I'm looking at over here later on. But a really good point because as much as we've all got faith that we can do a decent job in the Prem, we all are realistic in how difficult it is to stay up. And Fredericks has already got a promotion on his CV from the Championship. Joe Rothwell is a very capable Championship performer, and if we have a number of players that perform as well as we think they can in the Prem and we still go down, you can imagine quite a few players that will be looking to move on and make sure they maintain their Premier League position. And the likes of Billing, Solanke, depending on how Anthony does, Ryan Christie. There's a number of players we feel could do very well and show themselves off, and hopefully enough that we don't go down. But we've got to be preparing for all eventualities, and I think these are sensible signings in the event of an instant return to the Championship.
as we head towards July, not January, as we head towards July. That's 2 confirmed signings. We want to get your thoughts in the comments. Let us know what you think about Ryan Fredericks and Joe Rothwell. Right, a couple of potential rumours then that have been going around recently. Let's look at the first one. That's Ahmed Touba from RKC Valvik. I'm not going all Steve McLaren on you, but he is apparently 24 years old, 6 foot, a left-footed player, but comfortable on both sides, left-sided centre-back, but could potentially play at left-back. His return last season in the Dutch League was 28 games, 1 assist, 5 clean sheets. And previous to that, in 2020-21, he had similar games of about 30, 3 goals, and again, I think 1 assist. Don't know much about this player, John. You can go on YouTube and check out some 3-minute footage about him. Someone who looks very similar to like Lloyd Kelly, has got good recovery pace, but as I said, very comfortable on his left, but I've seen him make some good decisions on his right-hand side as well. But do you know much about this player?
No, not at all. I've done the same as you. I've seen a little compilation of him on YouTube. I did go looking through his stats for the season on who scored and some FB ref stuff. And I think his it was funny. His tackle numbers are decent. It rarely puts in more than say 3 a game. But then when we were doing really well, Lloyd Kelly, I think, put in 2 according to FB ref, Lloyd Kelly only ever put in 2 tackles in 2 games. Everything else was less than that because we were a more dominant team. It's his interception numbers that I think are right up there in terms of, I think, top 5 in the Dutch division for interceptions per game. And one other of the stats I think he does pretty darn well at. It's difficult to know sort of how well he'd fit in because he's not playing for a team, as far as I'm aware, that's really much of a passing side, which obviously we would like to be. So that'll be the interesting one. But certainly in terms of stature, in terms of his physicality, his speed, which he looks to have decent recovery pace, and also seems to be pretty good at putting in a last-ditch slide tackle. So I think that's very Steve Cook, Simon Francis of him, which I think should mean he fits in quite well. I think the fact that, you're right, he plays at left centre-back, but has filled in at left-back. You need to be careful about Wikipedia as well. You Google him, it says he's a left-back that plays left wing as well, which is completely wrong. Completely wrong. But he plays for Algeria as well, and has played at left back for them a couple times. All of last season he played at centre back for Valvik. So it looks like he would be sensible backup to Lloyd Kelly. I think that's about what he would be at this point, with possible options of playing as backup to Zamora at left back as well. I think we need a centre back and a left back along with Phillips. I don't really want us to just pick up a guy that can play 2 positions who's only ever going to be backup at this point. I mean, he could impress and end up getting starts, with current rumours continuing to circle that Newcastle remain interested in Lloyd Kelly. We need to be bringing in people, like you said, for all eventualities. And I think this would be another sensible signing. We yet to hear what kind of valuation I think would be. But for a mid-table Dutch team, I would imagine it shouldn't be too outrageous, hopefully.
Almost feels like a similar Tyrone Mings signing, where we brought him in to maybe settle into the Bournemouth team, and then he played a bit of left back as well. But I think he would be sort of back up to Lloyd Kelly, and I agree with you. I think we need more than one centre back anyway. I think he's not the number 1 target as centre back, but could add value beyond the current season as well. How likely do you think this deal might be then, John, in regards to a rumour? Do you see this growing legs?
Well, at the moment, I've only heard this one rumoured by like the odd person on Twitter. I haven't even seen a single article put about Bournemouth's interest in this guy. So this is really low down there at the moment for me. At the moment, I'm taking like 3, maybe, because there's been nothing concrete about this. So it's a 2 or a 3 for me at the moment.
Yeah, go with you as well. Like I normally do, just go for a 2 or 3, but only a few little murmurings on this deal. Now, the next rumour we're going to look at in this video is someone that we do know a lot more about. We were interested in him back in January. He's a winger. It's Josh Bowler from Blackpool. Has a contract, I think, until 2023. Had a fantastic season for Blackpool last season, 42 games, 7 goals, Jon, 3 assists. Someone who likes to travel with the ball, very technically skillful with his left foot. And he had a few good days against us last season in the Championship. An exciting player on the day when you're watching him. And yeah, I mean, look, we might be in for someone like this. I mean, naturally comes off the right-hand side, could probably play left as well. His best season was last season, though, and an interest could be there.
Yeah, so this was the 7 goal, 3 assist guy. But yeah, I think he showed himself as to be someone very capable of taking on his man. And it was one of the biggest dribblers in the division last season in the Championship. I think he was the biggest for, if not the whole season, for most of it, along with Siriki Dembele. And if you've only got to look at his goal against us when we went to Blackpool, just to show what kind of quality he can bring and can be a real weapon on his day. It's an interesting one, this, because from what we've heard, had Bowler not turned us down, we had a fee agreed with Blackpool on this deal, but he wanted to see out the season with them. And we've got Ryan Christie already. We've got a David Brooks that is on his way to returning to the side. Jamal Lowe can play on the right-hand side, although I don't think it's his better position. We've already got good options coming through at right wing, and sort of in attacking areas, maybe another body in the door, but I think we're pretty good for attackers. And with Josh Bowler only being proven in the Championship, if we were going to bring in another forward, whether it be striker, left wing, right wing, you would hope that it would be a Premier League proven player to splash out a little bit more, to give us our best opportunity to stay up. Now, I'm not saying I don't think Josh Bowler would be a success. Not at all. I think he's a great player and would be a fantastic buy if we brought him in, and you could see Ryan Christie maybe sort of filtering more into a more central position at times to make way for Bowler. But I don't know. At the moment, I'm not quite so sure that this one is really high up on the priority list for me.
It's a player that I'm sure we might be looking at, and there'll be lots of players like Josh Bowler. But you make an interesting point there, Jon. And I mean, if they're going to get this sort of deal over the line, they're going to have to convince the player to come. And if he looks at the squad and goes, will it get ahead of Christie initially? Maybe not. Anthony's in the way as well. Is Christie going to tuck inside? Well, then you're trying to knock out Billing and Rothwell. It's going to be difficult for these types of players to initially get in until they get in and keep themselves in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've really got to look at Dembele's difficulties at getting in and maintaining a spot. Obviously, that's on the left as opposed to the right-hand side, which is what Bowler is. But yeah, there's a massive allure to coming to a team to play in the Premier League. But Bournemouth are, I think, favourites for relegation at the moment. They're right up there for favourites. Certainly, they're definitely in the top 3, quite clearly as one of the promoted sides. And would you necessarily look at coming into a team like Bournemouth, where you are going to find it difficult to get into that team? Because Ryan Christie very clearly favoured by, very liked by Scott Parker. You're going to find it difficult to hold down a spot. And are you going to get more than a season in the Prem? If we stay up, then maybe he might look and say, okay, well, at least this team's got holding power and I'd like to be involved in the Prem a lot more. But I don't know. I don't think that's the be-all and end-all for players when they're looking to join a club, but I certainly think that's something that is, in their thinking. And it would take some convincing to bring him in. I agree with you there.
So we're not convinced by this signing, but a rumour that you're definitely going to see doing the rounds is Josh Bowler. Let us know your thoughts on Ahmed Touba and Josh Bowler. Let's just wrap this video up then, Jon. I think we're still looking at the similar positions that we spoke about in the previous video for more incomings. We're still looking at a backup goalkeeper. Freddie Woodman has signed for Preston. We're looking at a couple of centre-backs, maybe a left-back, maybe an attacking midfielder, and maybe another striker. So more to come, I reckon, from Bournemouth.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be more to come. I mean, I think in terms of midfield, I think we're probably stacked at this point with Rothwell in terms of how much cover we've got. Attackers, like you said, we could well bring in one more. I'd imagine right wing is the only position that we definitely, would be looking at another player, like, as in Josh Bowler, but maybe we'll get more experienced player in there as well, and definitely left back, and certainly even with Nat Phillips, once we hopefully get him over the door, we still need another centre back on top of that as well, I think, with a reserve goalkeeper. So, the names are totting up here. Although it's an interesting one, actually, I was just reminded of that I think would be, if we could convince him and get him on a pay as you play deal, I think Fabian Delph, who's currently been released by Everton, would be an incredible signing to bring him in as competition for Lerma and as backup for maybe even the Lewis Cook's role, as a very experienced, very capable player, but has had major injury problems. So if you get him if you could get him on a low wage, but bump that up with appearance costs, I think that'd be a fantastic deal. Just to complete, there's been no linking. Don't worry, that's not come up anywhere in the news. A name I heard, a name I reminded of, and thought, if you could bring in a big player to sort of a big experienced player to back up the squad, I think that'd be a brilliant name. But we've probably still got about 5 other players that we need to be bringing in outside of that. So it's still going to be busy, and the transfer window, I think, technically hasn't quite opened yet for another few days. July 1st is when it's meant to open. There's a long way to go in this window.
That is almost in the bucket list of the likes of Ben Foster, but we won't go down that road just yet. Quickly, some thoughts on some outgoings as well. With deals coming into the club now, you expect that the club might listen to some offers. I mean, I'm still looking at the same players, John, potentially leaving the exit door. We won't talk about loans, but maybe permanent outgoings, maybe Chris Mepham, Ben Pearson, Jack Stacey. I'd even throw Jamal Lowe in there potentially, but these players might be of interest to some championship clubs, likely.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think Chris Mepham will definitely depend on who we can get in, because I still think he'd be very capable for us, but he desperately wants that game time to get a permanent place in the Wales squad for the upcoming tournament in November, December. So yeah, I don't blame him at all for wanting more game time after being sort of a backup all last season. Jack Stacey is expected to be out the door. Ben Pearson would be a sad one to see, because I just think he never really got much game time at all in a year and a half with us. And then Jamal Lowe's an interesting one. I think there's definitely a chance that he could well end up leaving, but as backup, and I'm sure he himself would want to get the opportunity to test himself in the Prem, because why wouldn't you when you're already here? So yeah, certainly those at a minimum. And then you're looking at the likes of maybe Zeno Ibsen-Rossi going out on another loan, possibly permanently. I just looked, he only got 3 games when he went off for Dundee in the entire second half of the season. So he obviously didn't impress too much back in Scotland again, and he may well be looking for an exit to get more regular game time, and hoping to see Kilkenny get a loan move as well, because he desperately needs that game time too. So yeah, certainly a few I expect to see out the door as well.
Interesting transfer roundup, and we're going to wrap this video up. But first, I forgot to ask John about those 2 done deals, because we've done some videos on Ryan Fredericks and Joe Rothwell. I went for a transfer hit on both of them for the reasons I gave in the video. But John's here. Ryan Fredericks, do you see this done deal as a transfer hit? Is it a miss? Are you on the fence, undecided?
I think I side with you on this one, that I'm just about in a hit, because it's just sensible. There's no real downsides to that, unless he's on a ridiculous wage, which I don't think he will be. So yeah, it's competition, it's backup, it's Premier League experience, and it's on a free. So why wouldn't it be a hit?
Transfer hit from John for Ryan Fredericks. And Joe Rothwell, he's on a free transfer. He's on a good deal. He could end up playing championship football if we get relegated, or he could do very well in the Premier League. Is he a transfer hit, a miss? Are you on the fence, undecided?
This one I'm a little bit more undecided on, but I still think it's a hit generally, just because it's a free transfer again, and it's one for competition for the future, if regardless of what division we're in. And again, yeah, just sensible backup and bodies in the door. So yeah, I'll go with a hit on that one as well.
Cheeky, John. I nearly hit undecided then, but you just said it in time that you went for a hit, so I clicked the right button. No, brilliant, John. Thanks for this. And we appreciate you checking out this video. Make sure you hit subscribe if you are new to the channel. Hit the like button on this video. Get your thoughts and everything we've discussed in the comments. We would like to thank our channel supporter members for your support. You can donate to the channel if you enjoy what we do, or become a monthly member at buymeacoffee.com/Cherries Red Army. We'll have more transfer show content coming to you throughout pre-season, much more as well outside of that. But John, on this video, thank you very much.
No problem. Thanks for having me on again, Kirk.
And thank you to you for checking out this video. We'll see you on the next one. Up the cherries.